Today's lesson is the brain benefits of being bilingual. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Mike.
What a catchy title we have for you today. It all has this B sounds in it. The brain benefits of being bilingual. And I suppose if you repeat consonant sounds that way, it might help you with your bilingualism. It might help you become fluent in another language. But that's what we're talking about today. The benefits to your brain of being able to speak more than one language.
Absolutely. A lot of people are paying attention to how to keep your brain in shape as you get older. We know that there's a lot of things you need to do to keep your body in shape, right? Moving, exercising, stretching, things like that. But it's been proven more and more by research that we can also keep our brains in shape. A lot of people say your brain is a muscle. It's not actually a muscle in a sort of biological sense, but it is something that will get weak if you don't use it. And so to avoid dementia and memory loss and things like that can affect people as we all get older. They're saying learning languages, playing musical instruments, even doing word puzzles and things like that. Keep your brain in shape in the same way that you keep your body in shape. And there are brain benefits, mental benefits, not just, of course, you know a language. If you're bilingual, you can speak a second language quite fluently. So there's not only benefits of being able to communicate in a different language, but it's just good for you to keep your brain strong. It's good to train your brain even at an old age. And yes, old dogs can learn new tricks just like old people. So let's find out about some of the big brain benefits of being bilingual. The brain benefits of being bilingual. Learning a second language is challenging and often requires many years of study. The most obvious reward is the ability to communicate in a new tongue, along with the increased opportunities that come with this skill. However, there are additional benefits to language learning beyond the obvious.
大家好，标题中介绍形容词 bilingual， 它的意思是使用两种语言的或是双语的。例如 Being bilingual can enhance cognitive abilities. 使用两种语言可以提高认知能力。或者 The conference provided bilingual translation services. 该会议提供了双语翻译服务。
Okay, it's time for us to talk about the first paragraph in today's lesson. We're talking about being bilingual or being able to speak two languages, which pretty much applies to everyone in Taiwan already before you even set foot in an English classroom, because most of you speak Mandarin and Taiwanese. Some of you may speak Hakka or other Aboriginal languages, but I guess for all of you it would be learning a third language if you're studying English or Japanese or Korean or whatever. But we're talking about learning a second language here, a language you're not used to. And learning a second language is challenging and often requires many years of study. That is true, okay? Of course, as I said here, people pretty much pick up their languages naturally. Mandarin and Taiwanese, you don't really need to have any special effort to learn those languages. But if you're learning English or Japanese or Russian or Spanish or whatever, that will be very challenging and it will require many years of study. So yes, I can attest to this. I've tried for many years to learn Mandarin, Chinese, and Spanish, and I can't say that I'm fluent in any of those. Not yet. I can converse with people to a certain degree, but I don't consider myself fluent. But yes, learning those kinds of languages requires many, many years of study and memorizing vocabulary and grammar and stuff like that.
Now, the most obvious reward is the ability to communicate in a new tongue, along with the increased opportunities that come with this skill. Yes, these are clearly the most obvious and logical benefits of being bilingual, being able to speak two languages well. The most obvious reward or benefit, here we're talking about a reward, not like I'm going to pay you money if you find my lost dog, not that kind of reward, but basically just a benefit, something good that comes from something. So the most obvious benefit or reward of speaking two languages is the ability to communicate in a new tongue. Now here, tongue is just language. We're not talking about your tongue in your mouth, the thing that you use to lick an ice cream cone and to make sounds and taste food. We're not talking about that. We're using it as another word for language. You might know mother tongue is the language that you are born hearing. The language your parents teach you from birth is your mother tongue. Your native tongue might be the language that comes from the country that you come from, that you were born in. We wouldn't use it generally as always another word for language. You wouldn't say, oh, I'm going to my second tongue classes tonight. I'm learning to speak Bulgarian. No, that would be a language. But in many cases, and certainly in special situations like mother tongue, native tongue, we mean a language when we use this word. So not only you have this ability to communicate in a new language or a new tongue, along with the increased opportunities that come with this skill. It could lead to a job. It could make travel much easier for you. Hey, you could have a bilingual romance with someone from another country that speaks a different language. So these could be benefits, obvious logical benefits that come from learning another language. However, as it says when we reach the end of the paragraph, there are additional benefits or more rewards, more good things to language learning beyond the obvious, beyond the simple to understand, the logical things like we just expressed, knowing how to speak in another language and the opportunities that come from it. There are other benefits that aren't so obvious and easy to predict,
which we're going to continue talking about in the second part of our lesson. Let's listen first.
It has been shown that speaking a second language engages more of your brain than speaking your native language does. This extra work helps keep your brain in good shape and, in fact, helps prevent age-related brain deterioration. A 2010 study involving over 200 elderly people found that those who were bilingual experienced signs of dementia several years later than those who weren't. Being bilingual also positively affects your ability to pay attention. Bilingual people regularly switch between different languages, requiring them to shift their attention away from the language they aren't using. As a result, they're better able to ignore outside distractions and focus more fully on the task at hand.
第二部分看到 engage 这个单字，它是动词，表示使参与、从事，也可以是引起注意或是兴趣的意思。例如 Rita prefers to engage in quiet reading rather than watching television. Rita 偏好安静的阅读，胜于看电视。或是 The speaker engaged the audience in a way that made them feel like they were participating in a dialogue. 演讲者让听众觉得像在参与对话，借此吸引他们的注意。再来介绍动词 shift， 表示转移或是移动、改变。我们可以说 As the seasons shift, the temperatures gradually change, marking the transition from fall to winter. 随着季节转换，气温逐渐改变，表示着由秋天转为冬天。又或者说 The manager wants to shift the team's focus toward innovation. 该经理希望把团队的重心转向创新。继续看到名词 distraction， 它的意思是分心或是分散注意力的事物。例如 It's a good idea to eliminate distractions while you're studying. 在学习时消除干扰是个好主意。
Okay, here in the second part of our article it says, it has been shown or it has been demonstrated that speaking a second language engages more of your brain than speaking your native language does. So yes, it has been shown. I think most people know about this already. If you learn and speak a second language or a third or a fourth, it will engage more of your brain. So here to engage just means to involve something. It activates that part of your brain and that does good for your mental health. And if you just rely on your native language all the time, like for a lot of foreigners in Taiwan, they don't bother learning Chinese, so they basically speak only English all the time. Well, their brains are going to wither and they're going to rot away if they don't start learning Chinese soon. And here, if you do learn a second language, it will engage your brain more, it will activate your brain, and you'll be really, really smart as a result.
That would be great. I don't think your brain actually rots away, because that would lead to you dying.
Yeah, I was just using that for emphasis,
yeah. But obviously, you're not working your brain out, right? You're not giving it exercise. So your brain will become lazy and flabby and not as strong and powerful and useful as it would otherwise be. Because this extra work, it says, helps keep your brain in good shape and, in fact, helps prevent age-related brain deterioration. This is kind of what we were talking about in the introduction. It keeps your brain in good shape in the same way that lifting weights or going for long walks every day or something can keep your body in good shape, in good physical condition. So actually your brain will look healthier if you get MRI or one of those ways of actually seeing your brain. It will just look healthier, and it will also help prevent age-related brain deterioration. This is kind of what we were talking about earlier. Memory loss, dementia, the types of things that do affect people to a greater or lesser extent once they hit 60, 65, certainly above 70 years old. You can get brain deterioration anytime something gets worse, especially over time, maybe because you've kind of been neglecting it and haven't really been taking care of it. That will lead to deterioration. If you don't maintain your relationships could deteriorate, to use the verb form. And a car needs to be taken to a mechanic fairly frequently or fairly regularly. Otherwise, it will lead to the deterioration of the car and the engine. It will just get worse and sort of start breaking down slowly over time, as our brains do if we don't challenge them and give them something to do.
We do hear this word often in the news when we talk about countries having problems with each other, like relations between Russia and the United States have deteriorated. They've gotten worse. They're no longer buddies. They are always accusing each other of causing problems. So yes, relations have deteriorated, and deterioration here, of course, is the noun form. So yes, if you learn a new language, it can stop your brain from deteriorating, and you can live longer that way and be sharp in your old age. Now, in a 2010 study, it involved over 200 elderly people, and that study found that those who were bilingual experienced signs of dementia several years later than those who weren't. So this was a study, some research conducted way back in 2010, and it involved over 200 elderly people. So that was, about 14 years ago. So we can assume that maybe many of these people are already no longer with us, but they did discover that of those people, the ones who were bilingual did not become demented as they grew older, at least compared to people who did not know more than one language. So dementia, of course, is usually something that happens to older people. It just means you lose your mind, basically. You're unable to recognize things. You're unable to do common everyday tasks. It's very tragic, but it does happen to a lot of elderly people. My mother suffered from dementia to a certain degree before she passed away.
All right, let's keep on with the article. It says, being bilingual also positively affects your ability to pay attention. So not only will your brain not get worse, it will actually kind of get better in some kind of ways. It will positively affect, it will benefit your ability to pay attention. So your brain will get sharper, you'll learn faster, and things like that. Bilingual people regularly switch between different languages, requiring them to shift their attention away from the language they aren't using. Yeah, that's a very good point. If you're speaking in multiple languages, maybe you speak a certain language to your children and another language to your friends, or maybe you just speak a certain language at home and another language in your language class, whatever language you're learning, you're switching, you're kind of changing between different languages. So this is definitely a thing that requires a bit more mental effort. So it requires you to shift your attention away from the language you aren't using. Kind of like rubbing your stomach and patting your head and doing one at a time and then doing both of them together. So your brain is kind of being tested there. It's being asked to shift or to change. When you shift something, you kind of move it from one place to another. You change it from one setting to another. If you turn a light on, you're kind of shifting the switch on the light. You're moving it from up to down or top to bottom or something like that. And you're going to do that with your brain when you're using different languages. So that is definitely going to require a little bit more mental effort than just merrily going along with one language through all of your day.
I have noticed this with people here in Taiwan. They seem to shift between Mandarin and Taiwanese a lot of times, and I think they don't really notice they're doing it. I also noticed that with Mexicans living in the United States, they just switch back and forth between English and Spanish, and they told me they don't even notice they're doing it because some things are better expressed in one language and another language can be used for a different expression, so they just don't really notice they're doing it. So they shift their attention between those different languages, and as a result, they're better able to ignore outside distractions and focus more fully on the task at hand. So a distraction, of course, is something that distracts you. We don't want to have distractions, for example, when we're studying for an exam, the neighbor's making noise or construction going on. Those would be distractions, and we're not able to focus on what we're doing. But here, if you're able to shift between those languages, you can ignore those distractions and you can focus on the task at hand, which refers to the thing you're doing right now.
Exactly. Focusing on the task at hand is basically like paying attention, as we saw at the beginning of this little paragraph there. So yeah, absolutely. It makes your brain a little bit better at paying attention to things, focusing on things, not being distracted. A distraction takes your attention away from something. So that would be the verb form. I am being distracted by that dog barking outside. Why won't it stop? That dog's barking is a distraction, and it's making it hard for me to focus on the task at hand, what I am doing right now. And what we are doing right now is taking a quick break because we need to listen to the final part of our article. Clearly, then, the advantages of being bilingual are far more profound than one might think. With this in mind, language learning doesn't seem like such a chore after all.
第三部分看到 advantage 这个单字，它是名词，指的是优势、好处或是有利条件。举例来说 ，Having good listening skills can give you an advantage in job interviews. 拥有良好的倾听能力，可以让你在求职面试中获得优势。又或者说 One of the advantages of my apartment is how close it is to my job. 这间公寓的优点之一是离我的工作很近。接着看到形容词 profound， 它表示巨大的、强烈的、深刻的或是深奥的。我们可以说 The president's speech was filled with profound statements about freedom. 总统的演讲充满了关于自由的强烈论述。也可以说 The speaker's words left a profound impression on the audience. 该演讲者的话让观众留下深刻的印象。最后看到名词 chore， 它的意思是苦差事或是烦人的琐事，也可以是日常杂物。例如 Kevin persuaded his younger sister to help him with his chores. Kevin 说服他的妹妹帮他做苦差事。也可以说 Doing the dishes and vacuuming the house are among my least favorite chores. 洗碗和吸地板是我最不喜欢的两项家务。
And now it's time for us to discuss the final part of our article for today. It says, clearly, obviously then, the advantages of being bilingual are far more profound than one might think. So if you talk about things that are good for you, they benefit you, we call them your advantages. And yes, some people might think that being bilingual would not be good because it would maybe cause you to be confused or something like that. Maybe they think that speaking one language is good enough, but still we can see clearly that there are advantages to being bilingual, and those advantages are more profound than we might think. So if something's profound, it usually means it's very deep, but here it means deep in meaning. It has lots of extra meanings along with it, and we've listed some of those advantages today. It can reduce dementia, it can give you more opportunities in work and with travel and things like that. So yes, the advantages of being bilingual are obvious, and they are profound more than we would think.
Yes, absolutely. More deeper, more bigger, and more important than you might think. There's more to it than just, hey, I can speak a little bit of Italian when I go to the Italian restaurant. No, it's much more than that. With this in mind, so now that we know all this, when we say with this in mind, it's like taking this information that we know now or we've just learned, what can we discover from that? What new things will be open to us from that? So with this in mind, language learning doesn't seem like such a chore after all. Before you read the article, you might say, gosh, learning a whole new language, especially when I'm older, that sounds like a chore. That sounds like a really difficult and unpleasant task. A chore is something that you kind of have to do in your life, but you don't really want to do. And we often think of these as the little jobs that we have to do to keep our lives organized. Go to the bank, go to the post office, buy some stamps, clean the bathroom, go shopping, that kind of thing. An important, necessary, but not very enjoyable task task, as a chore. So now that we know all this about learning language and the benefits, learning a new language, taking on that challenge at an older age, doesn't seem so difficult, doesn't seem so undesirable. It seems like something that might actually be a good idea and possibly even fun.
Okay, and the reason we hired Hanny is because she is bilingual, so let's listen to her right now.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分提到，已有研究显示，说第二语言比说母语更能动脑，这额外的工作有助于使大脑处于良好的状态。文中它是用 keep your brain in good shape 来表达使大脑处于良好的状态。 in good shape可以指人或事物状态的良好，也就是表达人身体健康啊，或是表达商品、机械等等它运转顺利，事物状况良好。那我们说 keep something in good shape 就可以表达使点点点处于良好的状态。我们补充一下，这边它用到的结构其实是 keep 加受词加受词补语来表达使点点点保持怎么样。那么 keep 在这边就是指使处于维持某个状态，而受词补语是要用来补充说明受词的状态。我们可以用形容词、现在分词 VING、过去分词 PP 或者是介系词片语来当受词补语。好，这边造几个例句。第一个例句是 Doing crossword puzzles can help keep your mind sharp。 玩填字游戏可以帮助你让头脑保持灵光。那这边受词补语我们用到了形容词 sharp。第二个例句是 Please keep the door locked。 请让那扇门保持上锁的状态。那这边受词补语就是用过去分词 locked。 第三个例句是 Keep your eyes on the road while driving。 开车时要留意路况。那这边受词补语我们就用到了介系词片语 on the road。好，同样在课文第二部分他有提到，会说双语的人经常在不同的语言之间切换，需要他们将注意力从没在使用的语言转移开，因此他们能够更好的忽略外界干扰。文中它是用 distraction 来表达干扰的语义，那这个字其实就是指分心啊、分散注意力的事物，是来自动词 distract。那我们来学它的字首字根。好，看到 tract tract 这个字根呢，它有拉、吸引、移动或者是拖的意思。像 tractor 在 tract 后面加 or， 那这个字表示牵引机、拖拉机。而在 distract 这个字当中，它的字首 dis 表示偏离， tract 表示拉力，那把你的注意力拉走，偏离你原本专注的事物，这样应该可以联想到 distract 它表示使分心、转移注意力。顺便补充两个有相同字根的单字，第一个是 extract， 它的字首 ex 表示向外， tract 有汲取、拔出的意思，那合在一起 extract 就是指取出、拔出、萃取或者是截取。第二个补充的是 subtract， 它的字首 sub 表示分开， tract 表示抽。那当我们把东西分离，把一部分把它拿走、抽走，这样应该可以联想到 subtract 它有扣除掉的语义，那么 subtract 就是指减去或减掉。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Reward. Toby received a generous reward for returning the lost wallet. Engage. Playing chess engages your planning skills and improves your focus. Shift. Responsibility for the project will be shifted to the new manager next month. Advantage. Being free to work from home is an advantage for remote workers. Profound. Ellen's argument had a profound effect on Glenn. Chore. Cleaning the bathroom is my least favorite chore.
Discussion Starter starts now!
Okay, here's our discussion starter for today. The question is, what benefits do you hope to receive from being bilingual, and how can you improve your chances of getting them?
I'm hoping that being bilingual will benefit my mental health and the ability of my brain to absorb new information, and I aim to improve my odds of getting those by signing up for an online Japanese class using a computer program, because I don't really enjoy using computers all that much, and I figure if I have to learn Japanese on a computer, I will get better at both Japanese and using complicated software.
Sounds cool. Well, the benefits I'd like to get from being bilingual are being able to travel to different countries and talk to those people in those countries. Of course, it's great to travel to places like Japan or Korea and go see the sights there and eat the food, but it's even more beneficial if you're able to chat with those people. I certainly enjoyed my 2 trips to China that way. My goodness, I talked to so many people there because being able to speak Chinese opened so many doors.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Mike.
I am Roger. See you next time.